With nearly 5,000 specialists dedicated to supporting dealer financial services, Ally has the expertise to help you with your retail finance, F&I, and remarketing needs. We're all better off with an Ally. Contact your local Ally account executive to get started today. Ally, do it right.
Welcome to this weekend drive edition of Daily Drive for the first week in December 2025. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. We're breaking down some of the biggest stories in the auto industry from the past week and looking forward to what's in store in the days ahead. Joining me today are Michael Martinez, who covers Ford and the UAW for us at Automotive News. Mike, welcome back to Weekend Drive.
Thanks for having me.
And Larry Veliquette, who covers Toyota and Subaru. Larry Legend, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Cal, it's great to be here, but we got to change my opening. I cover Mazda now, too.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Okay. And Larry Veliquette, who covers Toyota, Subaru, and Mazda. Larry Legend, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Cal. And by the way, Mike is now gold-plated Mike for the first time.
Thanks to Larry.
I gave him gold status on Delta.
Oh, there we go. All right. So before we get into this week's news, what are you guys covering this week?
Well, I'll start. I am deep in NADA preparation already because by the time this airs, I am on vacation through the rest of the month. So I am deep trying to get this stuff in and ready for NADA. Already talking to our council chairs, going through the end of the year stuff that always buries us this time of year.
Well, while Larry's off, some of us do have to work at least for a little while longer. So this week, we're going to talk about this later. It was a big sales week, and obviously a big week in that two of the Detroit 3 CEOs were standing behind the President of the United States in the Oval Office for a big announcement. So I think we'll get into that in a few minutes here.
You're right, Mike. Well, speaking of that, President Trump announced his proposed rollback of Biden-era fuel economy standards. Auto industry execs were in attendance at the White House, including Ford CEO Jim Farley and Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa. The plan would cut requirements from 50.5 miles per gallon by 2031 model years down to 34.5 miles. Larry, what are your thoughts?
Well, with affordability being the number one issue for this industry right now, I think the best thing that consumers can do is have less gas mileage. We really all want to pay more money for fuel. So, but seriously, what this does, this proposal, it'll take a while to get enacted and there'll be fights on both sides. But look, nobody, as somebody who drives a hybrid, nobody likes paying more at the pump. And while loosening these requirements may, and I want to emphasize may, help keep the costs of vehicles down, it's also going to mean the return of V8s and all the bad habits that we really should have been trying to get out of. But hey, we go back to the future. That's what this period is about in the U.S. So,
it's interesting that Larry mentions that. I heard our friend Jessica Caldwell at Edmunds talk about this announcement and the affordability concerns, and she mentioned it from a sort of a human psychology standpoint. That we all hate the fact that a new vehicle costs $50,000 or more these days, and that lease payments are ridiculous, $700, $800 in some cases per month. But especially if you're buying outright, it's a one-time payment. It's going to hit you really hard, really sucks. But you go to the gas station every week. And if you need to do that more because your vehicle is less fuel efficient, that's going to take more of a psychological toll on you. That's why people year in, year out go crazy over slight fluctuations at the pump. So again, to Larry's point, I don't know what this does. I'm not convinced that it was really about affordability. It's the nice political points that Republicans can score on this. That's all fine and great. But the automakers, obviously, any regulation that goes away, they're going to be happy about. And it seems to be that they think this will allow them to change what they build, because in some cases they were sort of constrained because of regulations. They had to offer more fuel efficient models and not offer as many of those gas guzzling V8s and Raptors in Ford's case and all that stuff that would cause a penalty.
Yeah, it's worth noting too that the worst thing, the absolute worst thing for this industry, at least from an automaker perspective, is inconsistency. This industry moves not like a battleship, because battleships can turn, right? Right? It moves like islands, like drifting islands of trash. We do not turn very well, and we certainly don't turn quickly very well. So when we get these political snapbacks, one way or the other, they always go back. So you look at what Toyota is doing right now, and I mean I covered Toyota, but the difference between what they've always had, this 100-year plan, right? They look 100 years out and they just keep focused on that, and try to deal with the middle as they can. But you look at the difference between that and the kind of reactions that a lot of automakers are forced to make, these kind of instant reactions one way or the other, and they get trapped out on these islands, and there's stranded capital all over the place because of the way that the industry moves so slowly, and it wastes a lot of money because of it.
Well, Mike, as I mentioned, Jim Farley was in the Oval Office for the announcement and made a statement of support. What is this likely to mean for Ford? And is it significant that Farley decided to show up in person?
Well, what it means for Ford is that you're going to see them unleash Raptor. And that's a phrase that a number of executives have used over the past few weeks. Raptor, obviously, being its performance sub brand. You have F 150, Bronco, Ranger, and the like. And to hear Ford tell it, they were constrained in terms of the number of Raptors they could produce. They are super high margin vehicles, and people can't seem to get enough of them. So they are going to build as many as possible now because they are less constrained. So I think you're going to see more Raptors. In terms of Jim Farley, it was interesting. He's certainly made some statements against the Trump administration in the past. Ford as a company has bucked the Trump administration before Farley was CEO. Interestingly enough, back in 2019, Ford was one of a number of automakers that joined on to stricter emissions standards in California, that they would stick to those and not adhere to less stringent emission standards that the Trump administration was proposing. So obviously different between fuel economy and emissions, but in that case, they stood against them. Now he's literally and figuratively standing with the president. I think it was important, though, and quite telling, because during an exchange in the Oval Office, at one point, President Trump started speaking about the F-150, and he said, Jim, do you want to talk about this? And Farley said, no, Mr. President, I will not stop you from talking about the F-150. And I think that's really telling, because for Ford, this could basically be used as a commercial. They're scoring points with an administration that really values optics and acts of flattery, and he can tell a wider American audience how great his big truck is. So this works out well for Ford from an advertising and a marketing standpoint.
And the Trump administration has already moved to gut any way to enforce CAFE standards anyway. Is this new proposal moot?
Yes.
All right.
You need any more of an answer than that?
Well, again, I mean, what we mentioned before, right? This is politics. So a lot of it was optics. A lot of it was to score points against the other side. So yeah, there were no real teeth to enforce not meeting that 50.5, right? If that would have stayed in place. But at least now the one side can say, we rescinded this rule that was hurting American business. So there you go.
Well, guys, in other news, we got November U.S. sales numbers. The top line results were mixed, probably more automakers losing ground than gaining. Mike, what are your overall thoughts?
Well, it's the trend that we've seen for a few months now that is sort of played out slowly over the year. We had a really strong start to the year, a lot of pull ahead sales a few times, once in advance of the tariffs, and again in the fall in advance of the EV incentives going away. So we saw a lot of people that wanted to buy vehicles maybe do that earlier than expected, which meant at some point in the back half of the year, things were going to slow down. We saw that in October. We saw that in November. The automakers that did do well, Toyota, Kia posted a gain. Seems to be there's a consensus that if you have a wide portfolio in terms of hybrid, EV, gas, and if you have enough lower priced offerings, non-luxury or lower priced mainstream vehicles, you're going to do okay, because everybody's looking for deals right now. Everybody wants more affordable vehicles. But I will say one thing we need to keep a little perspective on. Couple down months in a row now, but the year is probably poised to finish with sales of at least 16.2 million vehicles, if not a little more if we have a strong December. 2024, we sold 16 flat. So for everything that we've talked about all year, for all the ups and downs, for all the curveballs this industry has dealt with, we're going to have a better performance overall than we did last year. That's an encouraging sign.
It's kind of crazy too, if you think about it, right? That we're going to end up this year after all that we have been through. It's nuts. But I tell you what, the overriding theme, and Mike brought it up, the overriding theme of this is that if you still have affordable vehicles, those are hot sellers. Toyota telling me they can't keep Corolla in stock. They can't keep Corolla Cross in stock. All these starter vehicles, the first entry that somebody makes, the ones that are still 30 in the low 30s or below, if possible, those are hot sellers right now.
And Mike, Ford deliveries were down slightly, less than 1%. Anything interesting there?
Yeah, I'm going to stick on that same train of thought as Larry. It's the entry level models. So Ford, was down, but they outperformed the industry, and they sent some data over. I'll give you some numbers. Entry level Maverick up 76%. Entry level Ranger up 48%. Entry level Explorer up 60%. So even when you get into the larger vehicles like an Explorer, midsize SUV, if you have a base trim, people are going to buy it.
Good stuff, guys. Coming up, we'll talk about Stellantis' hiring spree at its North American headquarters and Toyota's leap back into supercars. That's next on Weekend Drive.
Rivian built its brand around adventure, off-road escapes, and beach camping. But CEO RJ Scaringe sees a more robotic future built on self-driving systems as critical to gaining market share from slower-moving rivals.
The next few years are going to look entirely different than the last few years, not just for Rivian, but I'd say for the automotive industry in general.
I'm Molly Boygon on the next episode of Shift, Part 1 of our exclusive interview with Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe. He talks with our own Lawrence Iliff about his vision for software-defined architectures, autonomy, and the launch of the company's first mass-market vehicle in 2026. That's available Sunday on the Automotive News Shift podcast.
For over 100 years, Ally has helped dealers like you serve your customers by providing the best-in-class products and services you need, and by remaining true to the automotive passion we share. Your dedicated Ally account executive will work hand in hand with you to help you gain efficiencies, increase your product offerings, and work to improve per-vehicle revenue. Because we care about your business as much as you do. We're all better off with an Ally. Contact your local Ally account executive to get started today. Ally, do it right.
Welcome back to Weekend Drive. I'm Kellen Walker with Larry Bellaquette and Michael Martinez. This week, we found out Stellantis was hiring nearly 2,000 white-collar workers at its North American headquarters in Auburn Hills, Michigan. It's a bit of a whiplash after the tech center was virtually emptied out under former CEO Carlos Tavares. Mike, what do you think about this move by Stellantis, and what does it say about the automaker's commitment to North America?
Well, it's just that, Kel. It's that they are committed to North America, and that was sort of the not-so-secret about Carlos Tavares, is that he probably really couldn't care less about this market for Stellantis globally. And we're seeing Antonio Filosa, in the short time he's been CEO, really reverse a lot of what Tavares did. Probably he's needed to do this. We've seen him bring back the Hemi. We've seen him recommit to investing in Belvedere after Tavares was slow walking things following the UAW talks. And now we're seeing him invest in North America, invest in Michigan specifically, where Tavares was really cutting to the bone. So it's a good sign. I think he understands that they do have some crown jewels here in the Ram and Jeep brands. And obviously, we're less than a decade removed from record Jeep sales. It was a really positive story. Ram has some really profitable nameplates. Dodge has been profitable for them. So again, I think it shows that Filosa is committed to this market and understands the importance of it for the company globally.
Let me just say that as a long recovering Chrysler reporter, I spent a long time covering Chrysler / Fiat Chrysler / right before they changed to Stellantis. This is, and to quote Yogi Berra, it's like deja vu all over again. I've played this game. I've read this book. I've listened to this record before. It is just like 2012 all over again. Cerberus gutted the tech center. We're going to cut our way to profitability. Fiat comes in, is like, okay, well, let's put some people in. Let's invest in the products in North America. Let's revive Jeep. Let's develop Ram. Those are keys. And they kicked butt when they did it. It works. So the fact that that Filosa is doing this, I think he's doing a tried and true playbook, and if done right, it'll work.
Interesting. Now, we talked with Kurt Nagel of our sibling publication, Crane's Detroit Business, earlier this week about this. He says there's some risk that goes along with hiring 2,000 white-collar workers all at once. Larry, do you think that this could backfire if Stellantis can't get the traction it wants in North America?
Well, yeah, okay. Short of hiring people who are fresh or having trouble otherwise finding work, which that's a whole other topic we could talk about, they are going to have a hard time filling those jobs because they might not be the most stable jobs in the world, right? If you're an aspiring engineer and you have an opportunity, you can't find anything else, yeah, you're going to take that job. Absolutely. But you're going to be out on a limb by yourself here for a while if it doesn't hold, if the strategy doesn't work. Or if this is still a cyclical industry. If we have a down cycle, you're hanging out on that limb naked.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say I don't know that there's any more risk than any other company in this industry at any time, right? There's ups and downs, and every year we have layoffs at the various automakers. And, if things go poorly economically, maybe they are the first to be cut. But for now, to Larry's point, they seem to be investing in the company in the region, and they could be some good jobs.
Well, guys, before we wrap up, Larry, this week you covered Toyota's decision to get back into the supercar game. It's reviving the legendary Lexus LFA as an all-electric model, and it will launch its new GR Performance brand around 2027 with a 641 horsepower gasoline GT supercar. What's the play here?
It's Akio Toyota going fast. That's the play. He likes to go fast. He calls himself a master driver. He had a big hand in developing these cars. They all three share a platform, despite the different powertrains. They put in an all new block. They're building an all new engine for this, right? A twin turbo, all aluminum blocked V8, 600 which along with a electric motor will produce 641 horsepower, is expected to go over 200 miles an hour, and will be retailed in the United States eventually. That's the GT, the GR GT. The other side of this is the LFA, which is still a concept, but which we think will be the company's first use of a solid state battery.
Wow. That's interesting.
Now we can't get confirmation of that, but we've seen this solid state battery, have seen it for a couple of years. They have repeatedly said it's going to be out in 2027. This would be, because of the low volume, this would be the perfect Toyota play to adopt a solid state battery, which if you put this battery in a super light LFA shaped car is going to be an absolute rocket ship.
Interesting. I'm excited to see that. I want
Not
one.
bad.
I want one. I want one.
Yep. All you got to do is get one of your rich friends to buy one, right? That's the better way to do it.
Right.
You don't have to, that way you don't have to make the
I'll
payments.
drive his. Just
Yeah.
don't wreck it. All right. Well, Mike, Larry, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kel.
Thanks, Kel.
That's all for this weekend drive edition of Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer for his help on today's podcast. You can get the latest news on manufacturing, federal fuel economy standards, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. Come back on Monday for the first part of our exclusive interview with Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe.
We believe that autonomy is going to redefine how we think about vehicle ownership as we move even beyond that eyes off, hands off environment, but into an environment where the vehicle can operate empty. It dramatically changes your life.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. If you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.